Karla Valenzuela is originally from Mexico, now lives in Arizona. She is a stylist at Madison Avenue in Phoenix, Arizona. She is a Redken educator. She is a Samvia ambassador. She has an incredible heart and passion for coloring and styling. She's done work for LA Fashion Week, Bang Style, other magazines. She is a rock star through and through. And for those of you that have asked, because we have had you ask, Karla is doing more and more content in Spanish. So definitely go give her a follow. In the chat, please type in, welcome Karla. Put your hands together. Everyone welcome Karla Valenzuela.
Hi.
Oh, wait. What are you doing in the small box?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you guys and so excited. Thank you for having me today. Yeah.
We are super excited to have you, Karla. So what are you going to share with us today? We know you have a passion for upstyling.
Yes. So I thought since it's February 1st, it would be a great idea to, get started on some romantic styles is what I'm calling it. And, these are going to be like, I personally like to work on my content. If I'm not, you don't always have to wait for the moment of like when you get a client behind the chair or get a wedding booked. Sometimes you just feel inspired and it's like February's here, you want to create Valentine's Day content or whatever. So whatever what I show today, I hope that it can inspire you to either create some new content for your Instagram or learn something new that's really going to help you behind the chair and in bridal hair. I'm going to go over some of my tricks that I do so that I have really good longevity to my upstyles. And we're also going to talk about accessorizing. So
very cool. Well, we're excited. And like you said, wedding season is definitely coming up. And especially with all the shutdowns and everything, we're probably going to have a big explosion of weddings as things kind of start to get back out into the world and things warm up. So perfect timing. I'm going to get off this screen and turn you loose. So I'll come back in though and bug you for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, how many of you guys have noticed that there has been some people that did not let the pandemic get away from, their love and wanting to get married? So there has been a few people that are still out there trying to, get some bridal hair done. So how about we get started on this? I always make time to prep the hair before I get started on an upstyle, just because it will have so much more longevity and volume. This is what we call a directional blow dry. I like to use Redken Guts 10. This is seriously the star product for me to get volume and longevity. And I already prepped her with Guts 10 and did a directional blow dry on her. A directional blow dry is you're basically blow drying the hair in the direction that you want the upstyle to sit. For her, I blew out her hair coming up to the top of her head, because if I wanted to do a high ponytail on her, I want to make sure that everything's going to come up very easily. And see how I'm not brushing it and all the grains of her hair are already coming up. So everything was directed up using a paddle brush in my blow dryer with Guts 10 in the hair. And I just direct all the way up to where I want the ponytail to sit. And I keep working the product in until the hair is all the way dry. So let me just put her hair down so you can see. I mean, she's been prepped 2 nights ago. So you can see that see how the hair is sitting up, or it's standing up. So this is really going to have longevity. You can see that the hair is still flowy. It's not stiff. So the product is very buildable, and you can keep layering it, and it's not going to get super hard and stiff. So that's why I love to use Guts. Now, when you're using it, you'll actually, I feel like a lot of people, or whenever I show how much Guts I used, people are like shocked with how much it is. I use it behind the chair sometimes. I mean, not sometimes. I actually use it on most of all my clients, but sometimes I do spray a lot more and my client freaks out, because they're like, "Ooh, that's a lot of product." So if you use Guts 10, show me some hearts or write in the comments, love Guts.
I'll put in my testimony on that. The first time I worked with Sammy and Geneva on a photo shoot, I mean, they were just like emptying cans of that stuff into dry hair, like wetting down hair with Guts and then finishing with it. It was just like, whoa, that's a lot of product, but it created such a great foundation.
Yes, and honestly, on my styling kit, my traveling styling kit, I literally carry 3 cans of Guts in my kit. I may have like 1 can of like Fashion Works 12 or 1 can of each, but with Guts, because I layer it on so much, I carry 3 cans in my kit. So how about I show you how I apply Guts, and we'll do a little bit of blow drying on this mannequin. So when I start to prep the hair, I do it in sections. So I'm going to section out her hair about 1 inch. And also, you want to make sure you use a heat protective before you start. So I used Iron Shape 11. And Guts can be applied on wet or damp hair. If the hair is dry, to me, that's even better because we don't have any water diluting the strength of the product. If I'm doing bridal hair, I always make sure the bride knows that it's best if she comes in with a day dirty hair or absolutely clean. Because if the hair has too much buildup, oils, or product, it's not going to allow the product to work as well. So I think dry hair, clean dry hair is the best. So let me turn her so you guys can see. So I'm going to shake the can and really spray. So that's pretty saturated. And let me turn this down. And so now you can go in and start to brush the product through. I'm going to just move on to the next section. And like I said, she already has Guts in here, so I'm not going to do the entire head, but I am going to do a few sections just so you can see. And then I'm going to do the sides. So if you feel like this is a lot, say, woo! That's a lot, but it really, I'm telling you, it's manageable. Let's do some right here. Okay, so when you get started with your blow dry, I find it's best to use a paddle brush. A paddle brush is going to be the best thing you can use because it's really going to allow for the hair to move through. But the one trick is that you always want to make sure that you're working with the edge of the brush so that you're just using the first 2 to 4 rows of your paddle brush. Because if you go in with your entire paddle brush, you're going to get a lot of tension, and you want to make sure that you're making it easy for you to brush through it. So if you just work with the first few rows, it's gonna be a lot easier, especially because as you keep building the hair, you will feel a little bit of tension from the product. And I also, you'll find that with the air, sometimes all these ends start to get a little tangled. So what I'll do is, if I'm brushing up and I feel it starting to tug, I just simply let go of it, and I'll worry about this later. And to detangle this, what I like to do is work with the other edge of my brush, but I actually hold the brush vertically, because if you take a look at the brush, when you hold it vertically, all the row bristles are going to line up. So that's going to allow the hair to flow much easier through the rows, because if you hold it at a horizontal, you can see that the rows are more staggered. So it's going to create more tension. So I'm going to turn on my blow dryer just for a few minutes, and I'm going to do it on a lower setting just because of the sound for you guys, but let me move over here. So also the trick is you want to make sure that your blow dryer nozzle is following the brush at all times. And I like to think of it, I don't know what it's called, but like, you know, like when you're younger and you do relays and you're on your hands and your friend's holding your feet and you want to make sure that you're like at the same pace so that you don't
Wheelbarrow.
Wheelbarrow, thank you. So wheelbarrow, these are partners at a relay. So actually, if you keep trying to go really fast, you lose the momentum. So slow and steady and wheelbarrow. So here we go. Thank you, Andrew. So come up. So always follow your brush. And now you see the tangles are already happening, and so is my cord is also tangling to my tripod. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start detangling, and that could also happen because I took a little too long to start blow drying it. So just detangling it and work from the ends up. It's much easier. If you wanted to work from the bottom to get that ponytail to sit up and not have any hair sag down at the nape, you can just ask your client to put their hair or their head down a little bit, and you're going to start working up. Okay, so I'm actually going to turn my brush vertically so I can start to get through this hair a lot easier. And I mean, you can do your directional blow dry in sections too, so that you don't get overwhelmed with a lot of hair. But this directional blow dry will also help break down any cowlicks and splits in the hair. Ooh, and she fell.
She's drunk.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, while you have the dryer off, I'll just ask you a quick question. Michael asked, do you spray that much guts on all clients if you're just doing basic styles, or do you use a different amount?
So if I'm just blow drying my client who just got her hair color done, haircut, I apply mostly at the roots, maybe a little bit at the ends, but I definitely don't layer it as much as I would for an upstyle. So the only reason why I layer it so much for an upstyle is because as you're working with the iron, it's really going to grab shape of it, and it's almost going to create like this stiffness. But once you get your hands into the curl and break that curl up, the memory breaks down and it becomes a lot softer. And the guts will allow me to keep working the upstyle without having to keep using working spray. So that's why I like it. So I hope that answered the question. Okay, so we're gonna just finish this up a little bit. So follow the dryer. So you can see that, you know, it's dry now at the top and everything's still going at the direction where the ponytail would have sit up here. So let's move on to the actual upstyling. And all my girls that I'm using today have been prepped with guts already. They all just have been prepped a little bit different in the direction that I blew out the hair. Okay, so we're gonna start with this friend. And we're going to work with the Sanvia Waver iron. And this girl has been prepped with guts and iron shape 11, but her hair was directed all the way back to the bottom. The top of her head was lifted at a 90-degree angle just to get volume. And her two front sides were also directed back with, and I lifted the hair up to get volume with my paddle brush, just using the first few rows, and I hit the dryer up this way. So I'm going to get started on her. I already waved most of her hair, but I want to show you guys how I use this waver because I did it different than how I waved my hair today. So I actually used the tool on my hair, but because I'm doing an upstyle, my approach to this was a lot different because I want to create the most amount of volume. And I like to use the waver for this because I feel like it's going to create a different look to an updo. I was looking for more of that. Like I want the top to have these waves versus these little spiral curls that we see a lot in updos. So because she's an updo, every section I took was about an inch to half inch. So depending on the hair that you are working with, whether it's like, if it's finer, you can clamp more hair into the waver. If you're working with thicker hair, I would suggest doing at least half an inch of hair and then clamping the waver on. But for her, every section I worked with was directed above a 90-degree angle so that when her wave clamped on, she had more lift at the root. Where like my hair, I just basically grabbed the clamp and then just worked my way down. So if you're with me, say with you.
So that's a great point just to think about the elevation we start from, because that's one of the things we're kind of taught in hair school first, right, Karla? It's like on base, off base, all those things. But then we kind of forget to adapt that information just to everything else that we do behind the chair. So love that you're addressing to actually think about how you start that, where you work as far as elevation goes.
Yes. Also, with that being said, everything was also a horizontal partings at the back of the head. But as I'm moving to the sides, all my partings are actually going to be a diagonal back. And the reason why I want to do that is because when I put her hair back, I want to make sure that there's no open gaps over here. So if I do a diagonal parting, everything's going to flow back a lot better. So again, it goes back to like the principles of finishing, diagonal lines are going to create softness. Okay, so I'm going to spray a little bit of Iron Shape 11. And she was already sprayed before, so I don't have to put much on there. And here's another thing. And this is a discovery that I had when I was working on her because I kept seeing this result. And sometimes I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why this wave is like this. So I'm planning on bringing this hair back. So when you look at the waver, this is a dual waver iron. You're either going, depending on how you're holding the waver, you're either going to create a dip in the hair or you're going to create a hump. So if I'm bringing this back, it's going to look a lot more aesthetically pleasing if I make sure that this is going to have a hump versus a dip. So I'm going to make sure that my barrel is going to create a hump first. So I'm going to flip it under and clamp. And this is what I meant by I was like, I'm not liking how that's looking when I push it or pull it back. And then I kept looking at the waver. I'm like, but there's two barrels. So I literally had to ask my little sister. I was like, can you come here and watch this? Like, do you understand? Like, I just couldn't figure it out because it looked the same to me. But then she was like, no, yeah, it's either creating a dip or a hump. So just be aware of it so that you can plan of how you want everything to lay. So, okay, I'm going to keep going.
I'm going to admit something. When the team first brought the idea of a double waver up to me, to the group, I was like, really? I don't think we need a double waver. That seems like, cheating. We can do that with our curling irons and stuff. And, I'm just telling on myself right now because I can be kind of that way about things. But this has literally become, I think, our best seller at this point. Oh yeah, they just typed it in. I think this has become our new best seller lately. And part of it is because you guys keep figuring more and more out about it and teaching it in such unique ways that my very narrow-minded perspective of this kind of content, I'm like, well, yeah, it's a double waver. Like, you clamp it and you get some waves. But you guys keep coming up with cool stuff, and I have to admit, I guess I like it now.
I actually love it. It brings me back to my time. So I love wearing it. And like I said, as an updo, it just gives a whole new vibe to your updo. It's going to be a lot more textured, tousled, and you are not going to have like nothing. Spirals aren't bad. And, the vertical curls are still beautiful, but if you're looking for something a little bit different, this is going to give it to you. And like I said, it's going to be really good for clients that have finer hair because each wave is going to support and bounce off another one. So it's going to create a lot of like waviness and volume at the top. Also, hair hack, if you want to use it on yourself and not spend, I feel like I did clamp every section on my hair today, but it didn't take me any longer than when I curl my hair. But I've done other days where I go to sleep with two braids, 2 French braids or 2 Dutch braids. And when I wake up, I just let go of my braids and then I just start to use the waver iron on every other section. And I feel like that's cheating and it works great. So, and this shape will stay in the hair for quite some days. I wore it for 3 days and my hair still looked good. So I love the waver. Okay, so I think these little pieces, I'm feeling like I want to have some hair fall down. So I'm going to make sure that I don't have a dip when I clamp this one. So I'm looking to have a hump first. And like I said, if you're doing it on yourself or if your clients do it on themselves, they don't really have to think about the hump and the dip, the hump and the dip. But if you're doing an upstyle, I think it's something you need to pay attention to.
That kind of sounds like a 90s hip hop song.
Hump and dip. Okay. Let me move on faster. Okay, so this is most likely going to go back. So now I'm going to change my body position so that I can make sure that everything's coming back. So I'm going to work from the corner of this quadrant and work in little diagonal partings. Let me turn her down so you can see. And I hope she doesn't fall again. She might be better.
Hey, Karla.
Yes.
Great question from Mrs. K. What temperature do you have the waver on, and does it depend on the client's hair?
So I have it in the medium setting. So she's at 360, and it goes from 250 to 430. So there's 4 heat settings. There's actually 5 heat settings. And it does depend on the hair. I would say someone who has finer hair or super color treated, I would use a medium to low setting. But this waver is good for all textures as well.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, almost done. I think I have like 2 more sections. And I mean, what I like about it is that the tool has such a long width this way that you can actually grab a good amount of hair. Just make sure that it's not too thick in the density. But the width of the section that you're taking can be pretty wide because a tool can fit that much hair. So, and you guys can see how stiff and crisp these waves are looking, and that's all the guts. And you're probably thinking, well, what if I mean, it almost looks like a ribbon, but once you get your hands into it and break it up, it's going to be a lot softer. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna like here. I think this hair is probably gonna come down too. So I'm just gonna leave a little bit right there, and the rest is going to be push back. So I'm looking for the hump. So notice how I'm going to turn my wrist just to make sure that I can have a hump first before a dip.
So great question from Lena. Would you use the waver on naturally textured hair, or would you blow it out first, then use the waver?
Good question. So you can do both. I actually let my hair air dry before I wave my hair, and I have natural curly and wavy hair. So you don't really need to blow dry it smooth. I actually find that if there's a little bit of natural texture into your hair, you're going to get a lot more volume.
Gotcha. Yeah, it'd probably give you kind of slightly different effects, right? Like I would think if you start with the hair curly already, or, you know, especially if it's a super tight texture, it's probably going to give you a very different effect than if you stretch it out first.
Yes, if it is very coily and curly, then at that point, I think at least grabbing a paddle brush and doing some tension on the hair just to stretch it out, that might be a better option.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Okay, so here we go. I wish you guys could hear this, but you guys, I also love the shine that you get in a wave because the light just bounces on and off, where like a spiral curl just hides a little bit more. So I wish you guys could hear this because when I get my hands through it, you can hear like from the product breaking up. So I'm just gonna run my hands through it a little bit because I don't want to break up the wave too much because I'm looking to have a wavy effect at the top. So what I'm going to do is work very lightly, mostly with my fingers, because just like curly hair, you don't want to brush through that curl and break it up. So I'm just going to break up the curls with the points of my fingers. And this upstyle that I'm going to do is going to be super simple. It's basically 3 sections. And I'm going to start off by doing a big zigzag parting, starting from the corner of her eye. Let me situate her. Starting from the corner of her eye, and I'm going to work all the way down into a wide zigzag. So, and the reason why I'm doing a zigzag is because it's going to help the hair just blend and marry into each other really well without creating any hard partings. And like I said, this doesn't have to be anything super difficult. So don't worry about my zigzag's not perfect. You just want to get 3 sections. And then I'm going to do it on her other side, another wide part starting at the corner of the eye all the way to the bottom of her nape. And I'm going to set that aside. And basically what I'm doing is isolating her two sides, and I'm using my Sanvia clips that have a little rubber band elastic. This band really helps you not get a hard crease, so I really love using these for upstyles. Okay, so now we basically have a mohawk going on right here. And this is going to save a lot of time right now, because what I'm going to do is wrap a ponytail right here, and then we're going to start creating the do. So again, I don't want to break up the curl too much, so I'm just going to slightly work with my hands, and want to really make sure these waves stay here. And I'm going to bring down a little bit of hair so that it can fall by her face. And I mean, you can just be creative. Like I said, updos don't have to be so perfect nowadays. You know, as long as there's a little bit of texture, I feel like that's really still a good updo. So now I'm just going to grab an elastic and secure at the nape area. So I'm going to grab an elastic, and what I like to do is grab it and twist my finger around a couple times, and then open the loop and bring the ponytail through. And by doing that, you're basically already turning the elastic, but without disturbing the ponytail. Because if you keep doing it the other way, where you just kind of keep twisting your wrist, sometimes it moves the ponytail around too much. So, and now if you want, you can start pulling this up a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bobby pin, and I'm going to use 2 fingers and put my fingers inside the ponytail. And I'm going to wrap it in and press it against her head. And I'm going to grab my other 2 fingers and hold that in place and grab my bobby pin. And I'm going to insert the bobby pin from the bottom up, making sure that the wavy part of the bobby pin is against her scalp, because this is going to give you the most security. Also, when I insert my bobby pin, I'm going to weave it in so that it locks in better. Okay, so now we have that in. Now I'm going to move. And actually, another point I missed is when I'm doing this bun, it's at a vertical. So I loop the hair towards me so this bun can sit vertically. Okay. Now I'm going to grab another bobby pin and do the same on the other side. I'm just going to press it against her head and insert the bobby pin. Now, here we go. This is going to be our bun, and this is going to be the support for the rest of the hair as well.
Karla, question. So this is actually a great question. Any tips for best control when dealing with hair past the butt? Haircut, that's the tip.
Okay, so if you want to condense your time with somebody that has hair past the butt, what I like to do is actually from the nape down, I'll do 2 braids. So you can do 2 braids and pin them down. And what that's going to do for you, it's going to condense your time. It's going to save you so much time. And on top of that, the braids are going to be a support system for all the hair that you're going to pin. So you can, start pinning the bobby pins or your open pins in the braids, and that's really going to help you have good hold. So, okay. This, now, her one side that's hanging, now what I'm going to do is start to twist it, and I'm going to twist it towards me, and I'm actually going to start looping it underneath the bun. So I'm going to twist it underneath, and I'm just going to wrap it on top. And now I'm going to use an open pin, and I'm going to insert it with the against the scalp first, and then lock it in. So that's the best way to lock in a pin for me. If you just go in against the head first and then turn it a little bit and then lock. And I love using open pins because they're so forgiving. If you feel like you didn't like that, it's so easy for you to just take it out, and you're not going to disturb the hair too much. So pretty easy. I only use 2 and it's staying in place. Now with the other side, I'm going to do the same thing, but this time instead of wrapping it underneath the bun, I'm going to wrap it over the bun. So again, working really softly with my fingers so that I don't disturb the curl too much. And let me bring her closer. And I'm going to move to the other side. So I'm going to, as I'm twisting towards me, and I'm just placing this little twist over the bun. And now you can decide whether you want to hide the tail or you want to leave it to show. And I'm going to secure with my pin. And I kind of like the tail showing just to add some more visual interest. So I'm going to leave it there. And what I'm going to do next is, if you feel like something's not secure, just add another pin. I feel like this one needed a little bit more. What I'm going to do now is going with my Fashion Works 12 spray just to get a little bit more hold. And just spray this and work with the can just to put down any flyaways. And I'm actually going to, I want to make the little tail a little bit more detailed with the waver. So I'm just going to grab it and clamp it. There we go. Now you can really see the wave. Now I do feel like she, just keep looking at it and see what you like and don't like. I am not feeling this big chunk of hair. So what I'm going to do is just break this down a little bit and then pin this back. Okay. And go ahead. Hi.
Hi. This was always the hard part for me. It's just like, I like that you're taking the time to just say, you know what? I don't like this piece. Let's do something with it. Because I'm such a technical person. Like, I love, okay, do this, that's why haircutting always was kind of better for my brain, is because it was so like, oh, if you elevate it to here and over direct it to here and finger angle like this. But I love what you're doing because it's more of a visual process to just look at it and say, I like this, I don't like this, and then just do something with it. Like, that always is super impressive to me when I watch people like you that are awesome with upstyles.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's why, honestly, I wasn't always confident with upstyling. Like, if you ever feel heat when somebody comes in for an upstyle, like, give me some hearts. Like, I always felt like sweat running down my back, especially when someone sat and they said, nothing ever holds my hair. Like, how many of you guys ever hear that? If you're with me, show me some hearts. So, I wasn't always confident with them, but I'm telling you, when I started doing my directional blow dries, I feel like it really helped the way my upstyles were looking. And also practice. If you have time, just grab a mannequin or your friend, your sister, and just practice. And when I came up with this style, I tried it 2 more times, and every time I did it, it looked a little bit different. So when a client comes in and they show you a photo, don't stress too much about making it exactly like the photo, because you have to remember this is inspiration and not like you can't copy everything. You know, it's impossible to get the same exact result as a picture sometimes. So don't stress out about that. So now I'm gonna accessorize this. I like how this is sitting. And I feel like pearls are very romantic. So I have this cute little chain, and I'm going to just insert it right here. And I like the little wave that's happening here with the twist. I'm just going to accentuate that and wrap this. And bring it up a little bit more. And basically, I think it's going to work better if I put the pin this way. There we go. There we go. So if you like this, give me some hearts. Now I'm going to finish off with triple take 32 just to hold everything in place. And I love the texture on here. And you know, I didn't have to do any back combing. That's what I love about this texture with the waver. Any back combing and she still has a lot of volume. And
This is looking fantastic. And great comment from Tanya. She, let me find it here. A true artist never does a painting in one session. And then she adds, they tweak it till they're happy with it. And that's such a great comment, Tanya, because you're right. My wife's an artist, and she'll do kind of like the foundation of it. Then she'll step away and she'll come back and she'll do a couple more details and stuff. And I think that's a great perspective for upstyling, especially because it's kind of like, well, okay, well, let's try this a little bit. And the nice thing is since you're not cutting hair off, you can always say, well, that didn't work. Let's unpin it. Let's wrap it this way. I thought that was a great comment.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. And like I said, every time I tried it, it looked different. So
it's very beautiful.
And I did spray some shine flash from Redken just so that she can have a little bit more shine coming through. But super easy, just 3 sections, and I probably put I did 2 bobby pins and maybe like 4 open pins. So it shouldn't be uncomfortable at all and super easy to take down. Cool.
Karla, can you just give us a real quick recap? So you started out with the waver set, the double barrel waver set, and then started to go into what would you call that? Kind of like a chignon sort of style, or?
Yes. So that's what I was going for. And so the way I got the chignon look was by securing a little ponytail at the nape area. And then the ponytail, I just wrapped it around my 2 fingers at a, I wrapped it towards me so that I could, you're laughing at me. Wrap it towards me and then clip the 2 bobby pins to, flatten out the shape and expand it a little bit more. And then the 2 outside sections that were still hanging, I just twisted it and I twisted it underneath and wrapped it around the ponytail bun. And then I took the other section, twisted it, and then wrapped it over the ponytail bun and then just started securing.
Beautiful.
So this is going to be a great option for someone who doesn't have a lot of hair or a lot of length, just because the way we expanded that ponytail into a bun, that'll allow it for it to look a little bit more fuller. Cool. So now I'm going to move on to my other girl, and she was also prepped with guts, and her blow dry was directed towards the back of her, I didn't elevate the hair up like I did for the first girl I showed you guys with the high pony. Everything was brought down. However, she does have a side part, so I made sure that everything was parted to this side. And what I'm going to do now is just quickly wrap the hair around a 1-inch curling iron. And I'm not looking to get a really perfect curl, so I'm just going to wrap it around. And I'm going to use my 1-inch Marcel 2-in-1, but I just want to wrap it around, so I'm going to detach it and use my curling iron as a wand. So I'm going to grab about an inch section and wrap it around. I'm twisting my wrist as I am wrapping the hair. So I like to do wrist, watch. So that's wrist, watch. And what I mean by wrist watch is like if you were wearing a watch, you're going to see your wrist and then you're going to see your watch. So the first textured updo was dip and hump, dip and hump. This one's going to be wrist watch, wrist watch. And notice how it's so, I don't have to leave the iron on there for so long because the guts is already holding the shape really well. Okay. How are you guys doing? You show me some hearts in there. Any other questions? Okay.
Doing good so far. We're just watching you just curl that hair so fast. I'm like, you definitely do this a lot because your hand just kind of like goes.
So actually, it's funny you say that. I decided to do this kind of curl because of the speed. And because I'm not looking for like a really tight curl, I'm just looking for a bend just to create some shape in here. And so for me, I just decided to twist it and wrap it around the barrel just to make it quicker because I am planning on putting this back.
And now I can see the value of long fingernails for when you're doing curl sets.
Oh my God, it's so funny because I never used to have longer nails until recently. I got used to it because I went a little too long without getting it done. I was like, you know what? I can handle this. So, okay. Everything's curled back. And I'm doing diagonal partings as well, again, just so that everything can blend when I put it back so that there's no hard splits when it comes back. I'm going to turn around.
Katie Carey is, you just got a new nickname. Katie Carey's calling you Curlin' Karla.
Curling Karla. It would have to be curling with a K. Okay. This, I'm going to twist towards me. So every section is going away from the face. So my body position is different so that I can twist it towards my direction, my body. And you guys see how these curls look. They look like Shirley Temple because they're holding so much shape from the guts. But I'm telling you, once you get your hands through it, it's really going to break down and not be hard to get through. Okay, I have like 2 more curls, I think. And what I'm going to do for her is I'm going to put it in a ponytail. And I'll show you guys how, I'll show you one of my favorite ways to wrap a ponytail for good security, or just because I feel like an elastic sometimes doesn't do the job too well. One of the most well-explained classes I've watched. Thank you. Thanks for that comment. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching. A little bit, I missed one little guy here, so. Okay, so I'm going to take this out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start breaking down the curls with my hands. And I'm going to use my Sambia Artist Series 4 bristle brush. And this, sorry, my pins fell. This is going to help me bring my ponytail back. And see how, this is breaking down really easily. And like I said, everything was directed to the bottom, so my ponytail is just going to sit lower. And I'm going to backcomb just a little bit at the crown. And what I'm going to do is, oops, she almost fell. What I'm going to do is also work with the edge of my brush versus digging the entire 4 bristle brush in there, just because it's going to give it a little bit of a softer back combing. I just need a little bit of a cushion. I don't need anything that's super compressed, because sometimes if it's too compressed, it becomes really difficult for you to smooth it down. So I'm just going to slightly bounce on it. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this back and just gently start brushing the hair back into place. And okay, I'm going to secure her ponytail by using elastic. These elastics you can find at your local craft store, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, and it's basically like stretchy elastic. So I cut a piece and then I tied a little knot, and then what I did is put 2 bobby pins on each end. So I'm going to keep this next to me, and I'm going to start gathering my ponytail. And when I start to secure this, it's going to be pretty tight. So if you are looking to have any hair come up a little bit at the top of her head, like let's say you want this a little bit more textured, I'll use my comb and I'll weave it in and out. And I start to pull a little bit, keeping my hand still tight here because I want to keep my ponytail in place. And then just bring it up a little bit. Because like I said, once this elastic goes in, it's going to be pretty tight. I mean, you could still pull it up a little bit more, but if you can do a little bit before you secure, it's going to be a lot easier.
That's a great technique, because now you're going to get both. You're going to get that tightness of the ponytail, but you'll also have some natural movement to it. Love that tip.
So when you insert your bobby pin, you want to make sure that you insert it at a diagonal. So I'm going to turn her so you guys can see. And the wavy part of the bobby pin needs to go towards the scalp. So I'm going to open my pin and insert it at a diagonal. Now that that's there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to turn my elastic counterclockwise. And I'm going to keep turning until I feel that tension, until there's no more to turn. Okay, now we're at the end of it. So what I'm going to do is insert my bobby pin at a diagonal. And sometimes, let me see if I can get even a little closer so you guys can see. Sometimes what will happen is the elastic doesn't give enough for you to turn the bobby pin in. So what you're going to have to do is maybe slide the bobby pin like halfway out, just so that you can get enough of it to move, and then you're going to insert it diagonally again. There we go. I'm going to redo that one a little bit because it's showing a little bit too much. Okay. I'm going to just take it out and push it back in there. Now it's hiding a little bit more. So obviously, if I was doing on someone, I wouldn't use a black elastic, or what I would do is hide my elastic with hair. But for her, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to accessorize with a Valentine's scarf. So I don't need to worry about that showing. You could also find clear elastics at the store, but it's going to be a little bit of a different material, so it doesn't stretch as much. But I mean, like I said, if you don't find a color that's similar to your girl's hair, then you can still hide the elastic with hair. So now we can have a Valentine's theme going on with a scarf. And then you can start to fluff up the hair a little bit more or brush it. But her ponytail is super secured. And yeah. Now, if I wanted to do a different look, I can start pinning away. So with all this texture that Guts is giving me, I can very easily just start to play with the hair, and I like to grab the tail of a section and just run my fingers through it and create some texture and start to just pin it. And again, don't stress too much about making this perfect. Just start looking at it and see how you can hide that elastic and have some visual balance to your up style. So I'm gonna grab the tail and just kind of fluff it up a little bit. Okay. And I'm using open pins again because these are super easy to insert. And all I'm doing is basically just trying to just hide that elastic and create like a low bun type of look. And I like the little curls that hang off the top too. And one more. This one's a little too much for me, so I'm gonna go a little bit softer and twist. And sometimes you kind of have to go with what the hair's doing. So it's easier for you to just listen to the hair. If the curl really wants to curl under, don't fight it. Just go with it and it'll all be okay. So now, if you're looking for something a little bit more romantic and, you know, a little bit maybe more bridal, you can always accessorize with flowers. One of my favorite flowers to work with is baby's breath flowers, because these are really easy for you to break down and insert into the hair. And these will actually they'll last on the hair longer, just because, like, let's say you use wildflowers like little daisies, those really need to be in water and they'll start to look really limp and just not really stay in the hair very well. Another flower that works really well, oops, this fell. Another flower that works really well for bridal hair is wax flowers. And Andrew just posted a picture. Wax flowers they're a little bit more sturdy, but they are still really small. So you can definitely place these in the hair and it's not like anything super big. and they're white and have a little bit of a pinky violet tone to them. So I really like the wax flowers or baby's breath for upstyles. And I mean, look how easy it is. So you just have to break it down and insert. You don't even have to pin it. I mean, if you need to, if you feel like it might fall a little bit, then grab a pin and just put it in there. Cool.
Beautiful. Man, in 1 hour, you showed us 2 really incredible styles. Lena has a great question. What if your clients wanted more volume and texture after you're done? What's the best way to give more volume and texture without taking it down?
So if I wanted more volume here, I would just grab my comb again and start to bring it up a little bit more. So you can always keep pulling it. Another way, if you really feel like your client's hair is really fine and doesn't have a lot of volume, you can also use a texture iron at the base of the roots. And one of my favorite ways to use this to really conceal the texture is, let's say, we're going to bring this girl that fell back. She's forgiven. I forgave her, so she can come back. So let's say we're working at the back of the head. I know all this hair is going to come up or back, so it'll hide this. So for this section, I don't mind taking the whole section and stamping on my texture on here. And I just turned this iron on, so it might not create texture right away. But I'm grabbing the whole section and I'm clamping on the texture iron. Now, as I'm moving closer to the top, I want to conceal the texture on here. So what I'm going to do is, or disguise it is a better word. I'm going to grab my section, but instead of clamping the whole thing, I'm actually going to do a weave, kind of like you're foiling highlights. I'm going to do a weave and start to do the texture iron at the roots. And that's going to give you some volume.
Beautiful.
And then now you can see here. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love how with the ponytail style that you did, that you purposely kind of pulled some sections out so it looks a little bit more lived in, because people are looking for things that have a little bit more lived in feel these days. Some of our clients, at least.
Yeah, for sure. And
very
then
beautiful.
One other thing I like to do is, like, if you're looking for those little gaps, you know, that you see in upstyles a lot, you can always place your hand and grab your hairspray while your hand is in here and kind of pinch and spray. And that'll create those like openings as well.
Super
and that'll
cool.
create it, that'll make it more lived in as well.
Awesome. Well, Karla, this was just an action-packed hour for us of great bridal styles, super romantic styles. You definitely, we can see that you have a passion for it, but you definitely have a skill for it as well. So,
thank you.
So well done. Any last tips for them for keeping their styles more romantic and beautiful?
I mean, accessories are great, and I would just say just keep playing with it and don't stress. You know, if you feel like you're not the best at them, just practice. And like I said, using the guts is really going to help you. But as far as romantic, I always feel like anything that's a little bit more loose, not super perfect. I know this one's a little bit more, you know, bridal, so it's a little bit more updone, but you know, you can always have more hair coming down.
Awesome.
So.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, guys. If you missed anything, make sure you tune back in as soon as we end the broadcast. This will be available for you on Facebook and on YouTube to rewatch. Make sure to go give Karla a follow over on Instagram, and lots more education coming your way. Thank you so much, Karla. We appreciate you. And thank you to our audience. Couldn't do it without you guys. We appreciate the support and questions. Thanks so much, and lots more education coming your way this week.